In a world where engagement and value seems to be measured by likes, comments, and follows, how do we make sure our message stands out without getting lost in the noise? In this episode of Truth Be Told, we're going to explore the power of communication through social media. Whether you're building a personal brand, seeking a job, representing your organization, or just addicted to the platforms, this episode is full of takeaways for you to more effectively scroll, post, and engage. This is the Truth Be Told podcast, where we unlock the secrets of strategic communication. I'm lucky to be joined today by a couple friends north of the border from Ottawa, Canada. I've got Dawn Faithfull and Matt Day. With a keen eye for growth and a talent for storytelling, Dawn brings creativity and strategy together to create meaningful connections. She has a passion for elevating ideas, crafting compelling narratives, and bringing conversations to life in fresh and engaging ways. Whether behind the scenes shaping impactful content or driving initiatives forward, Dawn is all about making an impact thoughtfully and effectively. Matt Day is an experienced communications advisor and social media strategist. Previously, Matt was an award-winning journalist and national online editor with one of Canada's largest media companies. Most importantly, Matt wants me to note he's also a very proud part owner of the Green Bay Packers. Let's get into the conversation. Welcome to this episode of the Truth Be Told podcast. I am your host, Dave Thompson. I am here with my friends north of the border, Dawn Faithfull and Matt Day, communications extraordinaires. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for not charging me a tariff to hop on my conversation.
No, this one's free. This one's free.
Are you sure?
Not for you, yeah.
I wore, for those of you that are not watching, a reminder that you can watch the podcast. You can see it on video on YouTube or Spotify, but I've got I'm supporting the loyal Canadian brand.
Look at that. It's beautiful.
We love it.
It makes us feel comfortable and at home, which is what you want in communications, right?
That's true. I almost brought maple syrup up here too, but I didn't want to get too cheesy, you know?
It's a scarce resource at this point. You should, hoard that. Yeah.
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 We're gonna
eggs, but
now you just ticked off half of our listeners who are mad about the price of it. Are eggs cheaper in Canada? You probably measure them differently, like the metric system or something.
Yeah, by millimeters in size. Yeah,
it's a whole different concept. We're going to talk today about communication techniques. Now, the two of you, it seems like every time we try to plan what we're going to talk about on a podcast, we end up talking for 2 hours about things that we probably should never talk about on a podcast. But I've known Matt for a long time. He actually was around when I got this shirt, and I'm not sure if that's something that we can share with our
No, we
with our
need
audience.
to share. The people need to know the origin story of the red maple leaf shirt. Oh, the white
And
maple
before
leaf
you
shirt.
share that origin story, I just need the people to also know that I wasn't there.
No.
Okay, continue.
No, you
I
weren't.
think, though, that's a story that maybe listen to the whole podcast and we'll get there towards the end.
Oh, yeah. Good. A hook?
What does it just do? What is that called in the
That's called a
communications world?
hook, my friend.
A
That's
hook.
a
Well,
hook.
let's explain that. So my experience outside of my personal experience with Matt is seeing the two of you create some ridiculous and some funny and some informative social media content. And so what we're going to talk a lot about today is how marketing and communication specialists can reach an audience, can get people to listen or watch something for more than 1.2 seconds. And then for those of you out there that need to kind of create or work on maybe a personal brand because you want to make yourself more valuable or more of a thought leader, or maybe you represent a company or an agency, you want to do the same thing. These two are going to give us some tips and tricks on how to do that. But before I get into any of that stuff, I am curious. Some of these videos I've seen you both do,
Yeah.
like a reel that might be 45 seconds that looks flawless. How many takes does it take to get a reel that actually, like an Instagram reel that looks good? How many takes you think?
We just did one today.
Tell me
I
about
want to talk on that one. It took a bunch.
Yeah, it's a great question. Honestly, it really depends on the content. And it's funny because Matt actually pointed out, he's like, this is so much harder because he was lip syncing to another character's voice rather than actually just saying something that he would say himself. So it's so much harder when you're not just being yourself. When you are being yourself, we literally were like, one take wonder, no problem. But as soon as you start to throw in like references and characters and lip syncs and all the rest of it, I don't know, it probably took us like
Yeah, there's so
probably.
much to think about. I can just talk forever if I want to, but when in that moment it was like, and this is the only time maybe we can talk about not being authentic. We'll get into authenticity later, but I was trying to be someone else and I'm not. It's like this is harder than it looks. So everyone who sees those reels, just know that
Mhm.
guaranteed it takes multiple takes for most people.
Well, that I
Mm.
experienced a little bit of that last week. So I was at a conference and I'm trying to create a better brand for our business, a better kind of representing we're thought leaders. So come to us for information. And so I was at a conference and I wanted to create just little like 30, 45-second clips. Here's what I learned today. Here's what this stood out to me. I'm very comfortable public speaking. I said, do you know how many times I took a 45-second video clip and you know how many I actually posted? Zero, because I look like an idiot. But is that normal? Like people are out there trying to be influencers or create content. Is that a normal experience?
I mean, yeah, I think one of the biggest examples of that is just that whole influencers in the wild. Like, no one wants to be captured doing something that makes them look silly. And so I think it's just getting over that hurdle of this is cringe, this is silly. I might not look exactly 100% perfect myself. And there was someone out there that called it climbing cringe mountain. Once you get to the
That sounds
top,
cringe.
everybody is looking up at you. Everybody wants to be you, but it took a whole journey to get you there. And I think that is something of a mindset shift. So, yeah, you're going to feel a little bit weird, but when you can start to put those blinders up and just be like, I just want to get this done. Like, I just want to create good content and get this done and put this out. It helps not feel so much that way. So I
Absolutely.
think that's such a big part of it. And again, to the authenticity part, if you're just being yourself, how cringe can it really be? Like very cringe still, but a little.
As a cringe person sometimes no you get used to it though, right?
Yeah.
Like so a good example of that is we did a reel that was really popular for our channel up here in Canada in Ottawa's Rideau Canal, the world's best ODR as we tout it, outdoor
Outdoor
rink for
rank.
those. Yeah, and we need to exactly, yeah. But as I'm out there doing, we're just asking people a question about our brand, and we're just having some fun with people on the canal, just interviewing people, and there's a big camera following me around, which is funny. So a bunch of like teenagers come up and like, do it for the gram, do it for TikTok, and I'm just like, oh, I'm one of those guys. I used to be those guys that used to heckle the person, but you just get used to it. You're like, yeah, and here I am, and I'm gonna put out a sweet. I know like we envisioned it and we planned it out and we had all this thing. So I know in the end the product's gonna be great, but you invite yourself to some hecklers out there for sure.
Yeah. Do you feel like imposter syndrome relates to that a little bit? Like,
Oh, I feel that all the time at least. I don't
well,
know
I
about
saw a
Don.
clip today that Matt that you sent me over, and like the quality of what you guys put out, everything looks great. It looks so professional. You both look like you know what you're talking about. But I wonder if in the moment, do you ever feel like, how am I the person that's the face of this at this point? How am I the person asking that question?
Yeah, that happens a lot, especially in my role, kind of a chameleon. I feel I have in one reel I might have to be super professional talking about data and stats and things that like, whoa, that's not maybe necessarily who I am. But on the next time, yeah, I'm going out and I'm lip syncing a silly reel with Don out on the streets, and we're having fun skipping tra la la, being chasing each other or something like that for a reel, and you're like, wow, I am on both ends of the spectrum. But knowing your audiences and truth be told, those are for two different audiences in the end, and so it is about separating that, knowing your audience. The data and this goes on our professional side, the fun and the relatable goes on our more consumer side of things. So, yeah, I hope that answered your question there.
Yeah. And to the imposter syndrome point, I think it was Ilona Maher, the American rugby player who just like they did amazingly at the Olympics. She was asked, like, do you ever feel some sort of imposter syndrome when you're doing these campaign shoots or whatever? And she's like, no, should I? Like, I'm paraphrasing, but it's very much just owning it and owning your confidence and owning that you know what you're doing and that you know that your end result is going to be the thing that you need it to be, whether or not it's something that people are going to look at from the outside and see the value in. That's on you. Like, that's on you to provide that value. That's on you to prove it. And if you feel confident in saying, I'm ready to prove it, regardless of how hard that's going to be. Like Matt said, sometimes it's easy. Like it's stats, it's data. Everyone wants that. The sillier stuff, there's still a lot of value in that. And I think that that's why it's so hard for people to just adopt those things because they don't know how to communicate the value. And so
Yeah,
that's a lot
it's
of
not
what
about
we
being
have
an
to do.
imposter. It's about trying to reach your audience at their level, and so
Mhm.
maybe there is a little bit of like, who am I? But at the same time, I know who I am, and I'm trying to reach you because that's how you consume information, and that's what it takes to be an expert communicator.
Mhm.
We had a guest last season on our show, Dr. Abby Morano, and I asked her about imposter syndrome. She's a psychologist, and she was talking about it. And at points in your career, you need to feel imposter syndrome. Otherwise, you're never growing, right? You're always in a comfortable position. So if you don't kind of stretch yourself, you're never going to see that next level. And I know a lot of people listening are never going to create video content in their head. They're not creating an Instagram reel, but they might write a post on LinkedIn. They might go to a networking event and have to interact with somebody they don't normally interact with. So this communication piece to me just ties into kind of everyday life. Do you feel like it's made either of you any more confident or better from doing social media work to translating that into just everyday life?
I
I
think
mean, I personally do, and but it's also a two-edged sword, and because like, do you want that for yourself? But also at the same time, like I absolutely have seen an increase in how like I can just talk to whether you're CEO or you're the maintenance person, like I know I can talk to you confidently at your level.
yeah, and I think, there is a point where you should be reaching for growth, but I don't think there's ever a point where you should be belittling your experience, your lived experience, your knowledge. Uh, there's also that saying that's like, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And I subscribe to that wholeheartedly.
Mhm.
But I also make an effort to put myself in those other rooms so that I am always learning. So I don't feel like I'm an imposter in those rooms. I feel like I belong there because I've put myself there because I've earned my way there. So it's like Matt said, it's a double-edged sword. You're kind of always balancing that tightrope.
Yeah, absolutely, and it does help you grow. I mean, I was my years as a journalist when I was first starting out as a journalist. It was one of those things where like, oh, you're seeing all these seasoned vets, how they attack a story or something like that, and I'm like trying to do the same. I'm like, ooh, I don't feel like I can reach the same, level of professionalism or level of story details that these people who have been in the business for so long have. But by also being around them and feeling that way, I'm like, I don't want to feel like that. And you kind of grow into what you want to be. So yeah, it is a little bit about getting out of your comfort level. And if
Mhm.
that means you're feeling like an imposter sometimes, I mean, taking a step back and being like, okay, is this what I want? Is this what I need to do? How does this affect me? A little bit like that.
I think there's also something to be said for like the culture changing and the culture around doing content, whether that be to your point, a LinkedIn post, a Instagram reel, a TikTok, whatever, that has really changed as well. So 10 years ago, 5 years ago, even 2020, we're like, oh, TikTok's just that dance app. Like, oh, people are just on there lip syncing and doing silly dance trends. Now it's somewhere where people go for news, for education, for tons and tons of things, recipes, everything you could possibly imagine. Now, is there way too much information out there and a lot of it's not necessarily worth your time? 100%, but that's part of the experience, that's part of the culture. So we've made that huge culture shift. And like within our organization alone, when I first started to say, hey, we're kind of about to be like behind the eight ball here, like we need to move forward on this, otherwise we're going to be left behind. I just did it. I just went out. I did one video. I showed it to my boss. I said, I think we need to do this. He said, okay, yes, let's move forward on it. And now I have people within the organization that specifically talk to me about these videos and about how good they think they are and about why we should be doing more of them. And why, oh, like you guys put out so many a week. Like, can't you do more? Like, they're so fun. Like, we can't. We're that's not our only job. But it has come from this place of total misunderstanding to we want more. And even when we go out in the public and we go to like events with our membership, those people come to us and say, we love your social media presence. Like, we love that you're doing more of this. So it's a culture shift. It's having that confidence, but just also knowing like there has to be a leader, otherwise there's no one to follow.
It
So
was empowering when we
yeah.
first started, because at first everything had to get run by like through the the rigmarole there. Everything had to see what does this mean and what is that hidden meaning? Whose voice is this? And eventually that has really tapered off a bit more because they know like, oh, this is just standard procedure. This is a our company jumping on a trend and we're making it relevant to our audience, which we do a lot, and others can and should do if you're in that market. But yeah, once we had like the leash taken off of us a little bit, it was like, oh, here we go, we're off and running, and they do see the value of reaching audiences that we never would have reached before. And that was the key thing. When you go into the stats of one of our reels and we see like followers and non-followers and who's watching our stuff, we're reaching audiences that we need to reach but aren't following us, and that's really good to see.
Especially organically. Like we're
Yes.
doing that without paying for it.
Yes.
You usually have to pay for that kind of reach. Like that's why traditional advertising is slowly balancing out with this new school of media, because we're realizing that there is such value here and you're able to get crazy results organically without putting a ton of money behind it. So yeah, there's quantitative evidence, there's qualitative evidence, there's so much to be said for
It's got to
just
be
that.
humbling. It's got to be humbling too, right? You put all this work into a video, a reel, and the content, and then when it's reaching thousands and thousands of people, and it's made like, even if you think you guys had a blast, like having fun doing something kind of goofy, but you go to a trade show and people recognize you because of that, right?
Not
And
just
it
trade shows,
symbolizes you're a
restaurants
thought leader.
too.
Yeah, yeah. Should we talk about any stalking incidents that we've had, or you want to leave that off?
Oh, no,
We'll
that
leave
was
that
We've
out.
one
been
trade
we've
show.
been out
We'll
on the
leave that
street doing
alone.
a streeter, and people will have come up to like random strangers. I recognize who you are, which is funny.
Oh yeah, you guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is
Well,
great.
what I want, because I know a lot of our listeners are very heavy presence on LinkedIn, right? A lot of them, and so even ignoring their company or organization that they belong to, but like personal brand, being thought leaders. I've seen a lot of people in our industry start posting, here's some experience I've had in my career, here's cases that I've had, and now they're doing it consistently. And I see them at trade shows, and people go up to them and say, "Hey, I love that post you made last week, and when's the next one coming out?" And they just don't realize the ripple effect of where that content's going. And so, being identified as a thought leader through that content's pretty humbling, I would think.
Yeah, especially when, as Don alluded to earlier, like there's so much noise out there. So these people are recognizing who you are. You made an impression. They remembered who you are in the sea of reels and posts and carousels and LinkedIn posts and everything like that. So you've made an impression right off the bat. Yeah, it is humbling. You're like, oh wow, you remember me in that sea of content.
So, a sea of content. How to get people to watch more than the 1.2 seconds, right? We talked about the word hook earlier.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you probably haven't, but other people out there, I'm sure have had videos and reels that have flopped and you thought they're great and they go nowhere. But what have you noticed? I mean, we could talk about SEO and we could get into the weeds, but when we just talk about a hook, people want their information quick and they don't want to wait to find out if it's good for them or not.
Well,
So
David, you'll never guess what hook we're going to talk about first.
that's perfect. That's
Yeah,
beautiful.
I
Give
didn't
me
have
another
anything
one.
past that actually. I don't know.
So it's actually super interesting. There's now not just verbal hooks or like written hooks. You're also like a visual hook. So someone will come on screen and they'll set their phone down and immediately they're like putting on a lip balm. And that's just a visual hook. That's just something that it's like, oh, I wonder what lip balm that was. But before you finish wondering what lip balm that was, they're talking about something totally different and you forget about the lip balm entirely. So it's becoming a little bit sneakier. And the fun thing is too, now you can see all the hooks that are like played out. Like, don't dare
Oh,
ask,
yeah.
did you know? Like,
No.
holy moly.
Everyone knows it's a hook.
Did you know that if you add these 4 ingredients, you can make like the healthiest brownies? It's like, no one cares. No one cares anymore.
You could turn that around and be like, something like this ingredient, whatever goes into a brownie. Cocoa? Does cocoa go into brownies?
Yeah.
I don't know. Sure. I'm not a brownie baker, as you found out.
Just say like chocolate.
But you could say you'll never know. You never guess what you could do with a part of the ingredient that goes in the brownies.
That's
That oh what? That's a
Yeah.
different way of doing the hook.
Yeah, it's about reframing. So like
Mhm.
people have a bit of a niche and that kind of plays into your personal brand like you were saying. So if I'm, a balling on a budget kind of girly and I want to tell you about the most economically friendly way of making a batch of brownies that's going to feed my whole family. maybe that's your hook. It's not, did you know that if I add these four ingredients, it's like, oh, did you know that all of these pantry staples, whatever, or something like bringing your audience together and giving them something that they kind of feel is special for just you because just you're watching is such a way to get people to stay.
Yeah,
So
there's
yeah, if you feel like you're sharing information that maybe not everyone knows, or you're sharing information that is specific to you, if you already have that brand built, to the example of that person who was approached at the trade show, that's the kind of thing that people are going to want to know. And these story times, for example, on TikTok and Instagram, when you're making a video, those things are so popular because people are ready. Like they know it's a story. They're ready to sit down and like they've been primed. They know that they're going to sit down and listen to a full story.
yeah,
I think for me, this is not my expertise at all, but the relation I have to it is public speaking. And I have learned, even just listen to other public speakers, and we get asked all the time, people that have a fear of public speaking, which I used to be petrified of it. I hated it, and
really.
now that's all I do. But it was learning from my failures and watching other people do it. But I have learned when I'm doing like a keynote speech, the hook in the beginning, the first 30 seconds, like set the tone for the whole thing. And to me, it's a direct relation to a 1 minute reel. Is when somebody goes up there, when a public speaker goes up and tells, "Here's my bio, here's the agenda for the day," like I'm done.
Done, yeah.
When I try to either start with a joke, which of course is a good one, but usually it's a story. I try to tell a story that identifies a problem that we're gonna get to at some point, and I'm not even like flipping to the next slide for the first 5 minutes or so.
Yeah.
And I didn't ever realize that, but I think it's the same thing that's happening in a micro level in social media.
Oh yeah, it's funny you're talking about the public speaking. I remember this is grade school now, but it was hey, I went to the Legion every year because of my public speaking. Okay, so, but there's one like you're talking about that hook. It was like I remember one vividly where I just came up to the mic, ready to do like a public speak. You know, it's very formal and everything. I just went boom as loud as I could, and everyone just like jumped. And it was about the Canadian history here, the Halifax explosion. But from that moment on, like I had everyone's attention, and that was just a one way of doing it. It was sure it was like a shock value around me yelling and what the heck this guy doing. But I don't say that's going to work for everyone or everyone's message. But in that moment, it tied in perfectly because then I'm talking about the explosion and I go into the time. So it was about getting your attention right in the beginning, and that hook can be in a social post. It can be written, it can be spoken, it can be visual, but it's about something that will draw your audience in. It can be emotional, like it could be, like if your audience is parents and you have there's something like a dad coming home from serving in the war or something, and you see him hugging his kid or something like, ooh, wow, I'm touched. You got me. And it's like right off the bat, you need to have something like that to tell the rest of your story.
What
It's
kind of analytics? You don't have to get into the actual numbers, but what are you looking at afterwards to measure? Like, did that hook work, or was that did that have the intention that we wanted? Because I'm assuming you're looking at how long somebody was engaged or watched a clip, and then do you have to go back and figure out how do we replicate that or how do we change that? And then just a multi-compound question. But even if you do all that research and you figured out your answer, does that all change in a week based on
yeah.
trends right now?
Yeah, it does and it doesn't. Things that work like these hooks, they evolve, but the hook concept remains. So the type of hook or the specifics of it is going to evolve. Like I said, the did you know one worked 4 years ago. Now it's oversaturated. People don't want to hear it. So it's learning from those people in your niche that are already doing it. You can kind of get a bit of an understanding of, okay, maybe this is going to work for me, and then put your own spin on it. And so, to your point about the analytics, yes, we're always looking for engagement. We're looking like in terms of likes, shares, comments, all those things. We're looking for how many people watched it, how long they watched it. Did our metrics spike up right away and then kind of die off? At what point are you watching that or are you seeing that happen? And then it's also different for every platform you're on. So a YouTube video in long form is going to be very different than, say, a short form video content on like TikTok, Instagram, even YouTube Shorts, whatever. Um, those are the types of things that you have to pay attention to as well. So if your specific people that you want to speak to are on LinkedIn, then learn about the people who are doing LinkedIn well and what they're doing. And then again, put your spin on it, because there's already so much content out there, like we were saying before, that if you spend a little bit of time looking at what's performing well already, or going back through any of your past posts and seeing what's done really well, you'll often find trends there. And I think that's a really good place to start. But again, you do have to be evolving, you do have to be growing. So it's one of those things where paying attention means a lot, and listening. I know that that's kind of a weird word because you're not actually in person with anyone, but social listening is so important.
I think a good exercise to really like see how to reach your audience is kind of looking just at your own anecdotally yourself. Like, here's an exercise for your listeners or whoever wants to better their communication skills is when you're scrolling at night on your phone at the end of the day, what's interesting you? Like, what is making you watch that reel all the way through? And if you're drawn to it, chances are your audience or the people you're trying to talk to is also drawn to it. So make notes of that. Was it a visual hook like I talked to you earlier about? Was it something in the caption that was like what? And you tap that little button to expand it, right? Like to see like what do you mean this is true or not? I don't know, whatever it is, but whatever has drawn you in, you can use that to your advantage because it's drawn you in. It worked for you.
Yeah, I've now, because I overthink and overanalyze everything. First of all, if you're going to take notes on that, don't let anybody else read the notes on what hooked you to certain videos, I'm sure. But I've now caught myself doing that. I'm scrolling and I'm like, how in the hell am I still watching this stupid thing 15 times? This video is so stupid. But then I'm trying to think, what was it? Like, was it the music? Was it funny? Was I still trying to figure out what it meant? Was it the hook? Whatever. And then other ones, I'm like skipping through. I'm like, I didn't even give that thing more than a half a second. What was it that just made me bypass it that quickly? But
Yeah.
that's good practical feedback. I'm gonna
Yeah, and you're seeing a lot of people like doing series now. You know, like there's this guy I watch. I don't know. He's a comedian down in the States, but he's like, "Welcome to another episode of At This House," and his house is just falling apart. But I'm drawn to it as a homeowner. I'm like,
right,
"Oh, yeah, I relate to you," and he's super funny about it. But like,
right.
that's how he starts every series. I'm like, "Here we go. I know exactly what I'm getting into." So that's another thing. Where, like, I'm drawn to that, and I know it's coming.
When you have so much success, I know you guys also have worked, and Don does a lot of work on another podcast, and you've got thousands and thousands of people that you create this video, and you got so many people watching, you're gonna piss somebody off. You're gonna upset somebody. You might have some unintended consequence. Even I'm wearing a Canadian red shirt. Somebody's mad at me, I'm sure, because of that. And it can be for silly things. But there's a lot of unintended consequences when it comes to marketing messages. I know Don shared some good ones with us last time we chatted, but anything either you've experienced or you've seen out there in the marketplace that was maybe unintended consequences from a marketing piece?
I mean, my favorite
Yep.
one, I will always refer back to this one. I think it was 2020 or 2021. Burger King put out a campaign saying that, quote, women belong in the kitchen. And of course, that rhetoric is very controversial if you're just going to say women belong in the kitchen, period, and then leave it at that.
Unless you're a kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs, because he said the same thing. Carry on.
Oh,
As a
yeah,
Bills
that
fan,
wasn't
you have to
controversial
you have to
at
give
Carry
it
on.
all.
a
Carry on.
Yeah,
I see.
yeah, yeah.
I just ticked off an entire population of
It's
football
okay. You
fans.
know your audience.
Sorry,
There's a lot
Don.
of a
You
lot of
have the
Buffalo Bills
floor.
fans.
That's
Carry on.
okay.
Carry on.
No. I just like got this rage bubble in the back of my head, so I'm just gonna need. No, I'm kidding. Uh, but yeah, so the campaign for Burger King wasn't anything to do with sexism or anything like that at all. It was genuinely them putting together a campaign to encourage more women to get into the career of being a chef, because it's a typically male dominated industry, even though traditionally women are in the kitchen, blah, blah, blah. So, what started with a bunch of negative controversy, then Burger King sharing a little bit more about what it actually meant after they had already hooked your attention, they got into some really good publicity afterwards. And it's something that I'm still talking about 4 years later, 5 years
Right.
later, maybe, because to me, I was like, wow, that's such a smart example. It's like sometimes all press is good press, not all times. And to your point, like when we do record our podcast, there's a lot of nuance that I'm always watching for in terms of I can say something in a totally different way. I can just reframe that same exact sentiment, just say it slightly different, and you're gonna maybe piss off like instead of 50% of people, you're gonna piss off 20% of people. But I'll take it. I'll take the win. A win is a win. So it's very much like reread yourself from the point of view of somebody who completely opposes every single one of your beliefs or your morals, if that's important to you. If that's not important to you and what is important to you is garnering attention, then maybe you don't do that. Maybe you are the Burger King in this example, and maybe you are okay with garnering that negative attention so that you can come back and talk to all of those people that you wouldn't be able to have talked to before. So it's a real catch-22 potentially, and you have to be very skilled in understanding how far you can go without completely alienating yourself, canceled culture, etc.
And I feel like we're almost at a tipping point with that. And I mean, maybe we've been teetering there for a long time, but like there's just so many unhinged social posts now. It's almost like, is that the goal? Is just to piss off as many people as you can? And again, as Don said, if that's your goal, and great for you. But sometimes outsiders look at it like, what is wrong? And I mean, yeah,
That's
I can
great.
get into
That's
some.
It's
I can
true.
get into some
I love
examples,
that
but I don't want to alienate your whole audience.
Right.
I think,
Well, go ahead, Don.
sorry, I was going to say another really great example that's way more recent is the Duolingo owl.
Oh yeah. R.I.P.
Super
But not.
unhinged content, super unhinged content. This owl would go anywhere and everywhere and do the silliest things from like twerking with Dua Lipa to like harassing their coworkers. And it was hilarious and unhinged and all of these things. And it was building brand awareness for Duolingo. But what they ended up finding was that it wasn't actually making them convert in any way. So people weren't actually using the app, which was the whole point initially. So they killed Duo. They killed the owl. And the only way to help save Duo was to, oh, please, Duo would love if you would do your lesson on Duolingo. And it was the CEO reading from a script, and it was very, very like storyboarded, the whole thing. There was an arc, there was a story that you were all following, and people were invested in this because they had grown to love this silly owl caricature. And it's so interesting because even though it didn't have the intended impact right away, they were able to take that brand loyalty that people love this freaking owl and turn it into something that they actually wanted, that actually helped them in the long run with building this app into what they needed it to
This
be.
frickin' owl, eh?
It's a cool
It's
pivot.
frickin'
That would be a
owl.
fun marketing team to be in that conversation.
Oh
in
my God,
the
they're so
room.
funny.
That'd
Yeah.
be really neat. Yeah. The same wavelength of the kind of the unintended consequences. What about negative just comments? I don't know how much you guys are looking at these or not, but I've had a few people on our show. We had Anna Papalia who does. She's on season 1. She does TikTok videos for like HR interviews and tips on those. And I had McKenna on who did tips on just like sales pitches. But both of them have gone viral on TikTok and they're going crazy. But they both shared with me like if you look at comments after the first hour, people are gonna say some mean things. Have you had to deal with any of that
Oh
and have
my
a
God.
filter?
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of it, especially where we are. Yeah. Social media is a cesspool, honestly. You have to, playing off the trend were playing earlier, we were redoing earlier, you have to have a thick skin. And that's a callback. But yeah,
Good.
no, I think you have to, like, oh my gosh, the amount of comments that are just in our association and where we work, like I have to hide. Like, you can't be saying that. You have to monitor that. And at the same time, I can't take it personally. Like these people have their feelings, and you have to know where they're coming from, or have to at least appreciate where they're coming from, wherever it is, even if you don't agree. So yeah, a thick skin definitely goes a long way. But again, and I wanted to really harp on the whole power of communicating and on social media is you're gonna have success. Your chances are higher of having success if you're authentic. And if you're authentic and you're garnering these, these bad things, it's like don't change who you are. You need to be who you are, and success will come that way. Because if as soon as you try to be something else or you're not really thinking about how you're delivering your message, things are going to go haywire, and you might even invite more. People will see that. They'll see right through you. This guy's not real. This guy's not like this in real life. And then you invite more hate. So it really is about being authentic, and understanding your audience. So those are like, if I'm boiling it down to what communication is about, I really feel those 2 points, you can just take it off from there.
For sure. We did a podcast episode where our guest was someone who, falls one way or another on the political spectrum. And that episode had more comments, more dislikes, more engagement, more reshares than any other episode we've literally ever done. And if you, like Matt says, have a thick skin and you can manage those comments, hiding and deleting things with hate speech or anything like that, like that's where we draw the line. You can draw your line wherever you want, or you don't have to. You can leave it all there. You can interact with it. But the engagement is engagement. So what some people don't understand is that even if you hate me, the more you tell me you hate me, the more my message is going to be spread to people like you.
Because
exactly,
the algorithm is telling people that this person's interested in that post, so you'll probably be interested as well. And they're just spreading your message to the other side of the aisle. The authenticity piece, I just wanted to let you expand on that a little bit, because I know, like Matt, you mentioned some of your journalist experience, and I know both of you, even in some of the videos I've seen, you're interacting with the community, and also the stuff that you guys are kind of advocating or informing the community on can sometimes be divisive if people are upset about what the market looks like, for example, or if they just don't feel like it's good information that you're providing. So when you're interacting with people in the community and you're trying to get people the platform to talk to you, how does authenticity kind of play into that dynamic of a conversation?
Yeah, it's hard because sometimes we have to brand authenticity is different than personal authenticity, and so. Yeah, I mean, you got to be authentic to your brand, and I think they allow us to do the things we do because at the end of the day, like when you see me on a reel, that's pretty much what you're seeing, the energy from me as it is. So it fits really well on the brand authenticity, and in that regard at least.
for sure. And like to your point about being on the street, like we're both approachable people in real life, so we're just going to be approachable people when we talk to the public. We're going to be someone who they feel like they can talk to, but also that we can talk to them. I'm never going to like Matt and I have this rule, oh, that person's wearing headphones, they don't want to be spoken to. There's some nonverbal communication going on there as well, which is also very important. So, if I'm going to approach someone on the street, I'm not going to be closed off. I'm not going to have a scowl on my face. I'm not going to cross my arms and all of those very typical nonverbal cues. I'm going to walk up to them open-faced, look them directly in the eye and speak directly to them as if I was speaking to a friend of mine. Yes. And I think that that's so huge. Like when you're watching someone create a video and they're speaking directly to you and you feel like you're on FaceTime with them, that's one of those things that, like, to your point, Dave, gets people to stay. And you don't know why you're staying, but it's because they're speaking directly to you, or you feel like they're speaking directly to you.
Reaching them on a personal level, reaching anyone, trying to get to that level, like opens up the conversation. So it was a trick that we use in journalism all the time. It's not like I'm not going to come and ask the attempted murderer person I get an exclusive interview with, like, why did you do it, man? Like, hey, like, how's what led up, like just reaching on a level that they, like you're in their house and they see that they're a huge Buffalo Sabres fan or something. I'm not saying every attempted murderer isn't a Buffalo Sabres fan. Okay. I'm just giving you
the Bills.
I should use the Bills.
We've got one of those.
What?
Carry on.
Okay, I won't. No. Anyways, anyway, like you see your surroundings, and it's let me reach you on a level that I know you feel comfortable with. Those conversations are the best ones. I've gotten some of my best stories. Some of the award-winning stories I got was talking to someone, not about the story. Like I'm just want to reach you at a level and get there, and then we'll get there. We will. But I want to reach you and talk to you as a person and give you the respect. And I hope you do the same for me, because we're in the, we're communicating. I'm just trying to be respectful to you, and I have a job to do, and at the same time, I'm genuinely interested in what you want to say.
There
Yeah,
are investigators listening to that are saying, "Yep, that happens to me every day." Because just for your information, you get a lot of these people that they're interviewing somebody for the crime, where they are there to figure out, did they do it, did they not do it, or what happened. And the most successful interviews that we find is when there's a foundational element of rapport, and
Yeah.
it's more about understand this person's a human who did something bad. They're not defined by the bad thing. And if you make it about the bad thing, there's going to be resistance. If you make it about the person, you're going to get more information. And one little trick that Dawn just slipped in like 3 minutes ago is using somebody's name, right?
I saw she said Dave to you. I was like,
She
what?
did.
I
That
know. I
stuck with
noticed
me.
that. I
She
definitely
said it,
noticed.
and I said, "Oh, yeah, carry on." And so, but using somebody's name and smiling, because it was when you were talking about like having that, it feels like you're FaceTiming somebody, right, one on one. There's little things like that that can, I feel like, make it more of a personal conversation.
absolutely.
I'm always impact, like that's a big one. Absolutely, what you said, the name drop. It's so simple, but man, I'm playing in a badminton league, and then they introduced them, and they're like, hey, what's your name? And dude, I
Time out.
forgot their name
Time
right
out.
away.
Time out. You're what? What are you doing?
Why did I bring this up? I should have said I'm playing
Playing in a
manly
sports league.
football.
Rugby. You're playing rugby.
Listen, I do a lot of stuff.
Okay.
It's a
Carry on
winter
with your
sport. It's
story. That's
in,
good.
yeah,
A
yeah.
badminton league. Go ahead.
Badminton. No, but it was something that's really relates to this. Is like we introduced each other. Hey, well, good luck today, and blah, blah, blah. And then during the game, the other team is calling us by our names. I'm like, oh, I don't remember their name. Like it was a moment of weakness for me, because I'm usually pretty good, trying to be better at that. But it was like I respected that person so much more. Like I don't want to hate. I don't want to beat you so bad. I want to have fun with you now. You know my name. We connect. It was just a second of like communication at the beginning that was like, oh, set the tone.
Yeah, absolutely. It gets your attention. It's
Yeah.
another hook, really. If you have that opportunity, use it. And that's another really big thing is understanding the opportunities you have in front of you and being able to be prepared. You can't always have all the information you want, but work with what you have because if you go in blind, the other person's gonna know. So if you come off professional and you come off prepared, or you come off friendly, or you have that demeanor that you want, and that's how you can portray yourself based on your pre-preparation, you're so much more likely to get what you want. Just like let them take the lead a little bit, let them feel important, but come into it with the demeanor that you want the conversation to follow.
Yeah. Hey, Don, great point.
Thanks so much, Matt.
We both learning from each other. Yeah, that's perfect. And Don, that point is so important and underutilized right now. Like in the investigative space, old school kind of interview or interrogation technique would be the interviewer dominating the conversation, right? This is, let me tell you how bad you are. Let me tell you the evidence we have, and then eventually just make an accusation. And what the research has shown is when you kind of flip the table, and not the actual table, but don't do that. You just kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
But when you flip the script and you allow the person the opportunity to, they control the conversation, they have some autonomy to just be themselves, you get so much more information and probably more content when we talk about from your
And a better
perspective.
story.
Yeah,
Honestly, a better
yeah,
story. You connect with them more, and I only have 5 minutes to talk with you. Okay, well, all of a sudden you're like, oh, 20 minutes later, and they're still talking to you. You're like, oh,
yeah.
we did it.
We got a few minutes left. I want to make sure we end with some just takeaway tips for people to build a better brand. But I just have one quick question before we get to that. There's so many little things I think are intentional that people don't realize that go into making a reel or a clip or whatever. Everything, and you could list them all, but in my head, I'm thinking like what color shirt do I wear? Am I going to put a hat on or not wear a hat on? Do I have, what's my background look like? Should it be light? Should it be dark? Are there any little things you can think of in your experience that were intentional that maybe the viewer had no idea it was intentional?
100%. Like all the time. Uh Lighting is a huge one, and like I'm kind of breaking my own rule right now because I'm very warmly lit, but whatever. Uh
It's very
but no,
cold up
to
here right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
um but that pre-preparation is something that people don't see. They don't know you're doing that. And if you do it well, they will never know that you have done that. And if you are coming into it again I want this to be a friendly conversation, so you start it with a friendly conversation. I want this person to have a personal connection to me, so I use their name. Like, all of those things are so intentional. The other thing I think is just being able to just just listen, like just talk, like let people, like I said before, kind of let them lead, but that's intentional. Leaving dead air, even when you feel it's a little bit awkward, is intentional. So let them fill it. Let them do whatever they want with it. It's there for your interpretation.
You know what's so funny is I know Matt we were just going to be silent for a
I
couple
was,
of
yeah, I
minutes.
thought you were gonna lean into
I
that
was
for a
going,
bit.
well, I'm sort of, but not in a practical way. So our podcast at this point, we probably have 35 to 40 episodes. I would say, and it's all about effective communication. The common denominator in almost every interview that people are saying how to be a better communicator is saying just stop talking.
Yeah.
Like almost everybody. The last episode or two that we just released ago, Matt Halloran was the guest, and he wrote a book titled "Shut the F Up and Listen."
Yeah. Great.
And it was all about Don. What you just said is just like people want to fill space, and it can be awkward for you. But the amount of information you gain when there's silence, I would bet too, from a journalistic standpoint. I know on the opposite side, if I was being interviewed, once the interview is over, right, the formal concept of an interview, and like they hit the AV guys are taking like the lights down, but you don't realize you're still got the mic pack on, and that's you're like, okay, now I can say
Sneaky.
whatever I want.
Yeah, no, sneaky.
That's a dangerous space to be.
Honestly, some of the best points have been that moment, absolutely, where it's like, oh, we're done, and then all of a sudden they just feel like this weight, like, oh, I can be me again. Like, I don't want you to feel like that when I'm talking. I want you to be you as it is. But yeah, sometimes that is unintentional, or from someone else. You're like, oh, wow, I'm getting to the meat and potatoes a little bit later than I thought, but
Keep the camera rolling.
keep the
Always
camera
assume
rolling.
someone's listening. Always assume someone's listening. And also use that to your advantage. So you could just be having a casual conversation a little bit louder than you think you should be having that casual conversation because you're pretty sure the person next to you is listening. And you want that person to be primed with whatever you're already talking about. And then you go talk to that person and they're like, "Ooh, well, I have a one up on you." Fun fact, I actually have a one up on you. So it's preparation, but it's also like just pay attention to your surroundings, pay attention to the people, the atmosphere, the uh everything. Just everything. Pay attention and use that to your advantage. Whatever you have, because you don't always have everything you want.
Right.
So once you get good at working with very little, you can start layering on
Right.
top of that.
And this might be a different side quest of intentionalness, intentional.
You had it right.
That's fine. I want to just keep going.
Use the English version.
Yeah, okay, sounds
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
I'll speak French.
Yeah.
No, I shouldn't. That's not good.
No.
But like being intentional is a two-way street as well. Like you're receiving information on your social media channels. That's intentional. You know, like we've all made the joke, oh, Facebook's listening. Yeah, no shit, they are listening. The amount of targeting that we can do, you can get to an age, a region, a sex, dependent on what they've searched for. You know, so if you Google something, you know, it can be tracked. We can target and add to that. So I think people, you know, when you're talking about knowing your audience and everything is intentional, like, yeah, you're being targeted. They want your attention, and it's an intention that ad that you're like, oh my God, we were just talking about that earlier. Well, yes, it's absolutely done that way to come up. So I think that I think a little bit of social media knowledge and education on like how you're seeing the things you're seeing is also beneficial to when you're putting the message out, so that you know that side of it and how you can do it. Like, okay, it's not spray and pray anymore. Everything, you know, like you're not just posting something out and hoping that it goes viral and hope, like, no, not at all. Everything's done with intention. You want to reach your audience. How do you reach your audience? Maybe you have to spend a little bit of money to reach that demographic, that audience that you've identified is what you want to get your message out to. And we do that, and brands do. Every brand does that. Every media site, like they all do it, and we're all competing with each other to try and get that attention, which is kind of funny behind the scenes. You have to pay a little bit more to get this in front of someone's faces because another brand paid a little bit more for their message to get in front of that face. So
We're in an attention economy, as they say.
Yeah.
I like that. Well, I don't know if I like that, but I like the words to describe it.
It's
Last
because it
Economy.
puts it in front of you in a way that's so obvious and so like, oh God, yeah, wow.
We've just become accustomed to it, right?
right, right. Well, and then I get so I was scrolling through. I've got a TikTok problem. I really need to see somebody about it because I just start going, and then I read the damn comments, and I want to fight everybody. I don't say anything, but I get in the moment. And the one day I made the mistake of starting to watch. There's like speed dating that people are doing on TikTok. Now you're both gonna, yeah.
We're gonna,
It's the
yeah.
most like
Thanks.
from a psychological standpoint, like just it's people watching via TikTok, and
Oh
so you've
no.
got people on these like first date. So it's like a 2 minute, they go back and forth. Nobody knows how to communicate with each other. So I find it fascinating. And then they keep scrolling. But now every damn third video is another live dating or speed dating show that I'm seeing on TikTok because the algorithm is saying this guy must like it. He's getting more of that. And
We
so
just
I
talked
don't
about that today. We're like, we need a private browsing for all the social media. Just like, nope, turn it off. I don't
right,
want to be tracked.
I
right,
wanted that so much.
right. Well, and the takeaway, like to bring this back to all of our listeners, like last week I was at a conference, major company, and part of what they're talking about is just like sales strategy. And in the past, I've had a chance to sit on a lot of different conferences with organizations where they talk about how their advertising or their marketing dollars are going to go and how they're making money. And now, like influencers are they're reliant heavily on them to sell their product. And at the same time, there were some influencers at the conference, and so they were educating us on, I mean, these stupid videos, but they were high engagement, and they're getting contracts from all these businesses to sell product, and it's based off everything that you all just said. And so I say all of that to tie it back. Maybe there's some influencers listening. Hopefully, if you are an influencer, please share the link. But if you're just somebody who's trying to make your name known a little bit more in the industry so you're more recognizable as a thought leader for job placement, if you want to represent like your company, your law enforcement agency, how can they take these kind of tips and what are some takeaways, I guess, to build a better personal brand? Like what should somebody do when they stop listening right now to make themselves a recognized thought leader?
First of all, start. That's a huge hurdle for so many people.
Sounds like
Is
Gary
just,
V, Don.
oh no.
I'm sorry.
Did I?
That's all I see.
Oop.
That's my algorithm. I get a lot of
Uh,
Gary V
oh,
sometimes.
now Gary Vee is not
Whoopsie
going to
daisy.
reshare this after that.
Oh, because Don went, oh
No,
no.
I'm kidding. I honestly, no, look at my Instagram followers right now. I follow Gary Vee. You have to you have to follow all of the quote unquote thought leaders so that you can pick and choose what you want to keep, what you don't want to, who you want to be like, who you don't want to be like. And like, let me put it this way, Gary Vee is where he's at for a good reason. It's just that you get people like me with the gut reactions that I have because of some of the like extreme takes.
Yeah.
And I'll leave it there. But
Right.
I don't even remember what we were
Start.
talking about.
Start was the
Oh
word.
yeah.
Start. That's
Yeah,
why. We
just
started.
just start and then from there be be aware of what you're putting online and monitor what is working and what's not working and then just be consistent. So be consistent with who you are, with that authenticity. Start putting things online so that you can see what's actually going to work and what's not going to work. Learn from the Gary V's of the world. Learn from them. That's what they're there for. They are putting content out for us to learn from, whether we want to learn it or not. And it's just part of that attention economy. We are giving our attention to certain people, but we're getting things in return. And so, yeah, follow the people that you resonate with because you're going to start seeing more of those people in your feed. You're going to start seeing more of the type of content that you want to make or that is helping inform the content that you want to make. So, yeah, just get started, be
Absolutely.
consistent, be authentic, and don't get too in your head. I think that's also a really big one because as soon as I start to overthink, I will thought spiral and I will watch something and I will see that one facial expression that I made and I'm like, oh my God, no, that can't go online. But then you get over it and you're
Yeah.
like, it's fine.
The
No
number one
one's
tip, have no
watching
shame.
me.
Have no
Have no
shame.
shame. But also, no one's watching you as much as you think they are. Everyone's so much more concerned about themselves. So just put it out there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No
that
one's
is
looking at the red
terrifying.
shirt.
So I get it. Like I even this podcast, when I edit the little clips, I mean, there's some content that a guest has provided that's excellent, like a 45-second thing, but it is my eyes look ridiculous or like I lean something is terrible and I'm like I can't have that out in the world, but it's good content and you put it out there and it goes crazy. So
Yeah.
I think that's good feedback. Is just you got to be comfortable being
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
And I love that. Start, absolutely. Just start. I think another important thing is throw yourself outside of your own echo chamber. I'm gonna throw in the reference to the art of war here. Communication's the art of war, I guess. But like, know your enemy. Yeah, you know what you don't like. Go in and find. Like I always say, if you're religious on Fox News, go watch CNN as well. You have to understand both sides to really understand what you want to say, and become an expert in it. And I think that's another thing. It might be uncomfortable at first. You might hate it. You might hate what the other side's saying, but you'll be better off for it knowing where they're coming from or what they're trying to say too. So start and throw yourself outside of your echo chamber. Be authentic. It boils down to these simple points.
Yeah, I like that. When you both have said the word consistency a lot, is there any it's probably not a magic number, but sometimes even I struggle like how much is too much content? Am I oversaturating people with information? Or is it good enough information that just keep it going?
Dave,
Do you
I
ever kind of
follow you,
battle
and I love when you come up on my feed. So no, you're doing great.
The algorithm will tell you. That's the rule. The algorithm will tell you. There's like a point of diminishing return, essentially. So you're going to start getting better numbers the more you post, the more consistent you are, the more you hone in on the better parts of your content. And then as soon as your numbers start dwindling a little bit, maybe that's the time to look at, okay, what am I doing differently? Okay, what parts of my content should I really focus on, and what parts of my content should maybe I drop at this point because I don't need them? So I think that's, first of all, it's a very good position to be in, to be too online. Like, not everyone has that in them, or not everyone has the bandwidth because it's not their primary point of focus for their lives or their careers even. So if you have that problem, I think the algorithm's going to tell you. Just look at what's doing better and drop the rest.
Don makes a great point. Again, like it was one of those things where we had a strategy before where it was like, oh, let's just put these articles. And we were doing a lot. We were putting a lot out. But by doing that, we understand and we learned what our audience likes. It's market trends, data, how to the ins and outs of the act of buying a house type of, like, that's what they liked. It wasn't necessarily like what type of house, like what type of home or the design of it all. It was more of like, wow, they want the real-time information. So we really leaned into that lately. And through that, I think we've seen really good growth on our social channels by really talking into more of that. It started with the spray and pray, which I said is not good, but by doing that, we really identified, oh, this type of content does really well for us. That's our audience. That's what we need to lean into more, and we've really started doing that more.
I know I've gone longer than I thought we were going
That's
to
what
because you guys
that's what
have so much
happens.
good information. I can keep going. Well, just that triggers one other thing for me. Well, two other things. First of all, have you seen the video, the guy that shows houses that sprints around the house?
Best.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, he does a great job.
Why are you not doing this yet?
I'm not. I'm officially not a realtor.
Yeah.
You need grippy
We
sneakers or something though, or shoes, whatever you want to
totally.
call them. Yeah,
Pilates
those.
socks.
There,
Pilates socks.
I mean, we
Yeah.
were chasing people around the office and saying cheesy pickup lines to them for Valentine's Day.
That's
So
great
we
video.
true.
Great
We
video.
did chase someone almost all the way into
My
the bathroom.
my other question was, how much should somebody engage on other people's posts? Does that impact people are coming back to them,
I'm
right?
gonna
Because
throw that to
that's I've
Don.
learned that myself.
Don is an expert on this stuff too.
Okay, yeah, tell me about it because what I've started to do, and this is advice I've been giving without knowing, but giving people is just, even from a personal brand, even if it's 15 minutes a day, just to like block out on whatever platforms, LinkedIn or whatever. And I'm trying to make a comment, be a thought leader, right? Be present. And my engagement is blowing up after that. And I'm getting more followers. I'm getting more engagement. But go ahead, Don, you're the expert here. So fill us in. Well, how important is it to engage on other people's content?
very. Uh, to your
Done.
point, like, yeah, that's it. That's all I have to
Yeah.
say. Uh, could be. But no, another thing I say is never post and ghost. So
Yes.
do not put something out, regardless of the platform, and then close the app and wipe your hands of it. If you want to gain followers, you want to gain engagement, you want to gain viewers, whatever it is, you have to engage with other people so that they know you're out there. And engage with people that maybe you're not already following or who aren't already following you. And that's a lot easier to do now with the suggested for you kind of content. So that's a big thing. And the 15 minutes a day is a good rule. I would say also, like, after you put out a post, spend about 10 minutes doing it. Regardless of how many times you're posting a day. If that means you're, posting 5 times a day and then you're spending 10 minutes after every post, make sure you're doing that because it really will pay dividends.
Especially like before you post, and then these
Yeah.
apps want to know that you're on it for fun and to be there. And so
Yeah.
if you're interacting before you post and then you post, it's like, oh, they really like us. And
They want to know you're active on the platform, right? Because then
Yeah,
it's
they do.
driving people, and you're gonna keep them on the platform.
One of the brands that sticks out in my head the most that did that, I don't know why, and every single piece of content that would come up in my Instagram feed when I was doing this, the only comment that would come from is Slim Jim. The company Slim Jim. I kept seeing Slim Jim in all the comments for so long. Every single thing, I'm like, what is going on here?
That's your algorithm, man. I have
guess.
never seen a Slim
You've
Jim
never seen a Slim Jim?
comment.
Now, well, maybe all your listeners will also.
I was just gonna say,
be more
thousands
in
of people
tune.
are now gonna get targeted Slim Jim ads.
I haven't had a Slim Jim in years since I was like a kid. So like,
Yeah.
why? But it was showing up, and I mean, if it's showing up for me, I'm sure it's showing up for others. Not you guys, I guess, but
Well,
that was one of the things, like not posting and ghosting. They were active. They would go into like a post from like Home Depot or something and like
Yeah.
interact with it.
Yeah,
Not
Macho Man
any
Randy
interact-
Savage doing his whole thing.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Good throwback. Yeah. But like these Home Depot and Slim Jims, they never mix unless a Slim Jim is in the takeout aisle or something. But like in the social media realm, they found a connection. And I mean, I see it now. You're like, oh crap, okay. Guys like to go to Home Depot and Slim Jim's like, okay, well, let's comment on here. And then Slim Jim's seen up in there. I don't know. But
Because we've got a lot of international listeners, what's a Slim Jim for everybody, Matt?
wait, I thought that was American Hot Rod. Is that your American brand?
We
of it?
got Slim Jim, but I don't know if everybody knows what that is. So
Hot
we got
Rod
a
or Slim
beef-
Jim?
We got like a beef jerky stick.
That's it.
Just
I
in
used to
case
get
people are
Slim Jims to
confused.
my aunt
what
all the
Slim
time
Jim-
for Christmas, and I think there's, I'm owed a lot of back orders of Slim Jims.
Yeah, I'm just picturing some of our UK listeners wondering what the hell is on your
A meat
algorithm.
stick. Do you want to look at meat stick?
Slim Jim.
I will
Anyway,
say too, there is a flip side of that where if you're commenting on other people's posts, be authentic to what's actually being posted. Don't just say, "Oh, great post," or "Oh, love this," because
Fire emoji only. Yeah.
because as soon as you start doing that, the algorithm's going to pick up on it and they're going to think you're just spamming people. So there is a bit of a balance there. If you don't have anything thoughtful to say, maybe not the post to be commenting on. So
yeah,
that's a thing to take into consideration
that's
as well.
great feedback. So intentional engagement. It should
Intentional.
be. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. This has been awesome. Before we just wrap up, I'm going to give you a chance with any last one takeaway. You guys have so many of them. Anything else you want to leave with our listeners? And then, is there a way for people to find you or stay in touch with you, or any kind of ways to connect with you? Up to you guys. But I'll leave that up to you if you want. Or any last, we call it one last truth. So is there one last takeaway that you want to leave our listeners
Can I
with?
do a dare instead or no?
You can do a dare now off camera.
Okay.
Matt. We already did. We never told the story, so I will tell you if.
We have to get back to.
If you subscribe and give us 5 stars, and we get enough of those from this episode, Matt and I will do a special 5-minute episode, and we will release the story of how we became guest bartenders many years ago, and I earned this shirt. Otherwise, we're not gonna do it. So we need your engagement. But
the tease.
any last truths or takeaways for our listeners?
I think don't be afraid. It's such an overwhelming place to be, the content atmosphere, and everyone's fighting for your attention, so you feel like you have to put up a fight to get their attention. And if you feel like you're in this like fight or flight, maybe you're just gonna flight? You're gonna flee. So yeah, don't be afraid. Just start, like I said before. I think it's all about getting over those like incremental hurdles.
I like that. Just start. I think Nike sponsored this episode.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Start.
Go ahead,
Flip
Matt. Sorry.
change. No, I honestly, when it comes down to why do we do social media? Like, why am I on it? What's the goal? Obviously, we want brand awareness and personal goals, but at the end of the day, it's supposed to be fun. Social media is supposed to be fun, and you can connect with people and have fun that way. So make it fun. Like, if you're not having fun doing it, you're doing it. You gotta reevaluate maybe.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be fun. You don't make it seem like a super hard chore. It's not supposed to be. If you're authentic, and we've already talked to it, like Gary Vee will just say, you don't need a microphone like this. You don't need professional mic and video and equipment. Every single person has one of these bad boys, a phone, and you can just go and create content with it. And some of the best content is just raw, like from a camera, someone talking just to their camera mic and a quiet, like some content like that that's all it takes. So if you're having fun and you don't need to worry about like, oh, do I have the best do I have this? Is this the best idea ever? At the end of the day, you want to make sure that your message, if you're having fun, people will relate to your message more. I mean, depending, if you're talking about serious content, you're not gonna want to be fun, but like for the most part, think about
I
that.
think it still stands. Like
Yeah.
if it feels like a chore to make, it's gonna feel like a chore to read or to watch or to engage with. So talk about what you know. Don't be afraid. Talk about what you know.
And don't be afraid to take multiple takes when it happens.
Yes.
Yeah. If you don't like the first one, you can do it again until you like it. It's fine. That's the beautiful age of digital. Yeah.
Everything you just said hits home. Right? We got a lot of good take. We'll include. I'm going to kind of summarize because we've got not here. You guys don't have to listen to me anymore, but we'll summarize in the show notes because I know a lot of you are driving and you're not taking notes because you get into an accident and that's not safe. But if you look at our show notes, we'll kind of summarize some of the top takeaways because there's a lot here that was just really practical, which I appreciate. So people can implement some of this right away. But just thinking about the two main things you both just said of like just start and have fun doing it. That's this podcast, right? We started this, just thinking about it, talking about it, and finally it's like, just do the damn thing.
Amazing.
And it has been the most fun, cool experience to talk to people like you and just have guests on and just talk about something that we're passionate about. And oh, by the way, now there's engagement from it. So I think those two lessons were really good takeaways. So
Appreciate that.
thank you both for joining me. I appreciate
Thank you
it.
for having us on. That was fun, Dave.
Yeah,
Anytime
this
I
was
get
great.
to talk to you, it's
We
always
can
a
do
good
this
time.
all the time. You guys are great. And thank you for listening. And thank you, too, for hopping on. And I know I got shushed on this call at least once from Dawn. But I appreciate the information. Thank you all for listening to this episode of Truth Be Told. To help more listeners find our show, please provide us a rating, give us a follow, and share this episode with your colleagues. For the latest news and to engage with our guests, follow Truth Be Told on your favorite social media apps. And don't forget, we are available on all major platforms, including Apple, Spotify, and watch a video of this episode on YouTube. On behalf of our guests and valued sponsors, thanks again for listening to this episode of Truth Be Told.